Welcome to Retro Fanfic Retrospective, the podcast where we dredge up old fanfiction and expose it to the cold, harsh light of 2019. My name is Amato, and with me are...
Tori.
And Dom.
And Emily.
Yes, I'm very excited today to have my friend Emily here. You're visiting from Washington.
Yes, I am.
And Emily here is an actual, honest-to-goodness Harry Potter fan.
Yes, yes. Definitely one of my special interests. And I've been a Harry Potter fan since, I think since this fanfic came out, 2002. Sounds about right.
Was this fanfic what got you into Harry Potter?
Actually, my friend Sherry was to blame. She was my best friend in high school, and she kept telling me about the books, and me trying to be rebellious, I was like, I'm not going to read that. That's popular. And she finally, just handed me the first book. She's like, you're going to read this, you're going to love it, and you're going to be obsessed like I am. And, yeah, pretty much that's how it went. Loved them immediately. They read a lot, Roald Dahl books, which I was a big fan of as a kid.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I never thought of it like that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, because you have, a kid in a horrible situation, and then something magical happens, and then their life completely changes, and but everything is equally, dangerous, too.
And a lot of that same, silly stuff.
Yeah.
Like the funny candies and all
Absolutely.
of that.
I would be way into it if at one point Rowling went like the beginning of Matilda and just started ranting to the reader about how terrible children are or something.
I think I'd like it if we found out that Willy Wonka was a wizard.
I mean, isn't that pretty much already the case?
But
That could check out, yeah.
yeah, but in direct violation of Ministry of Magic protocols, wizard.
Honestly,
Too wealthy to mess with.
Exactly.
Selling all of his candy to both wizarding and muggle worlds.
I feel like my mind is being blown a little bit here because I feel like literally Charlie the Chocolate Factory exists in the Harry Potter universe now. I don't think that's ever going to get separated in my head. It just makes too much sense.
Yeah, let's call that officially headcanon.
Indeed, yeah.
I've been inundated into the fan culture.
I mean, that's my favorite type of fanfic is crossovers, so...
I think we can slot in the BFG very comfortably.
Yeah.
What else have we got? James and the Giant Peach?
Oh, yeah. Similar tone.
I don't know.
But similar tone, but I'm not sure what the actual points of similarity are.
Well, it's just an enlargement spell gone wrong, right?
Right. It would just be the...
He's
some
got the evil
offshoot.
ants in there, and then... The parents were killed by a rhino. This is really bleak.
Matilda can just get an owl any year then.
Yeah.
How old is she in that book? She's less than 11. She's still got it coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's just a witch, right?
Yeah.
They specify
Ravenclaw.
she's a witch, yeah.
Well,
Ravenclaw?
American, right? Or was it no, the movie was American.
No, the book is British.
Right.
I really appreciated the movie just for the casting of the adults. Both the parents and Trunchbull were just great.
Spot
great.
on.
Well, the nice thing about the parents is that they weren't exactly the same characterizations as the book, but both of the characterizations they went with worked really, really well.
Yeah.
And Trunchbull was just perfect.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Who is also in the Harry Potter films.
Wait, who does she play?
Aunt March. The one who gets blown up.
Oh.
Perfect.
Yes.
Also very Roald Dahl-esque.
Yeah.
Going back to Harry Potter or being a fan of it, you are somewhat engaged in the Harry Potter fandom, right, Emily?
Yeah. Mostly through Facebook groups. And back in the day, it was through LiveJournal. There were a lot of Harry Potter communities, Harry Potter fanfic communities through there. It would just, a lot of the fandom written now is just arguing about where we stand on Fantastic Beasts, and what is Rowling doing?
That is a question.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, and then that kind of becomes an argument, too, of some people that love how involved she is in the fandom and answers questions and stuff, and other side of us that are like, no, please take her Twitter away, please.
So what exactly is the issue with her responses to fans, I guess is my question.
It's, sometimes it's just out of nowhere facts about the wizarding world. Like, she answered a question about bathrooms in the wizarding world, and apparently that they used to not exist, and so wizards would just shit their robes and then make it disappear, I guess.
This has become internet famous.
Yeah.
That particular thing. I've heard that.
I can see how if you're working as a fan writer especially, you might not appreciate sudden fact drops like that.
And then there's just some, like, the information she gives, where it's like, yeah, this is clearly a British woman. It's just very colonial, the way she describes, like, other wizarding schools in the world. Like, oh, there's a school in Africa, and they all specialize into changing into animals. And there's a school in Japan, and they're all very hardworking. And like, stop,
Well,
please.
I've definitely heard some things about her politics, and I mean, Harry Potter, of course, has a lot of racist components to it. Like,
Oh, sure.
so it's sad to hear though that like after all these years, she's still kind of that ignorant. I guess.
As long as we're airing controversy, what is your position on Fantastic Beasts?
The first one was pretty. I like the Fantastic Beasts.
The beasts were pretty fantastic.
They were pretty fantastic,
Right,
yeah. I liked the character of Newt Scamander. I liked how he is... and this came from like a YouTube essay I watched where they talked about how he is a good definition of non-toxic masculinity. That he kind of solves problems through kindness and being good to all the creatures around him. And I do agree with that. I kind of liked how quirky he was. That's about it.
Well, it was nice
And
to see a
yeah.
Hufflepuff doing well.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Actually, like the Fantastic Beasts movie, I absolutely loved because I just felt like it was all the beasts, and also Newt Scamander. I wouldn't say it's non-toxic masculinity because I don't think it's masculinity at all.
Sure,
This is just
yeah.
my perspective: is that you don't have to portray masculinity just because of a gender that's being presented, especially in a film because they're all binary genders, etc.
Right, yeah.
But my main point is that, he is a chill person. He doesn't perform masculinity is kind of the cool thing. He performs kindness.
Yes.
And just kind of does his thing. Also, the beasts are just fucking fantastic. Can I just
true,
say
though.
they are
Yeah,
fantastic?
yeah.
Like,
Nifflers.
All right, so that's how we work in Fantastic Mr. Fox.
They're fantastic.
That's-
the
they're
word fantastic.
Fantastic
Yeah,
Beasts.
okay, great.
I thought it was clever.
Fantastic Mr. Fox and where to find him.
I don't think Mr. Fox would appreciate you knowing where to find them. Well, if you all appreciated Fantastic Beasts, then I hope you enjoyed today's fanfic. We were reading Harmless and Easily Domesticated by Angie Astrovic, maybe? I don't know. I'm a substitute teacher by trade, so I'm used to seeing a lot of names and being like, could it be this? No? Maybe not? Maybe it's something else?
So you're used to giving up on trying to pronounce names.
Usually I have someone there who can tell me how it's pronounced. Whereas in this case, no, I just kind of have to throw it out there. Angie, maybe, possibly Astrovic.
Sort of like that quiet kid you get, like, when you're teaching middle or high school and they just, like, won't tell you how to pronounce their name. You're just sitting there, you're like, I care of it, so where wits, and they're just like, nope, no.
Well, even if you have a hard pronounced last name, sometimes you just kind of give up trying to tell people.
Oh, yeah. I feel gratified sometimes when I pronounce people's names and they're like, oh, man, they got it. Occasionally. Now, this fanfic is short. It's also old, as is our wont. It's from 2002 through 2003. It's pretty short because I decided to have Emily as a guest on fairly last minute. And it is specifically this fanfic thanks to our friend Hairu. It's been a while since this came up, but back when I started looking for fanfics to put on the big list of stuff to choose, I ran into a LiveJournal post called 20 Good Fanfics by someone called Hairu. You can find a link there at bit.ly/rfrgood, because I just decided to list that thing. When I saw this list and like the first few fanfics they put on were like anime and Sailor Moon fanfics, and I was like, yes, that and that. So I was just sold on the rest of the list. The last time we've done something that I got to through Hairu was probably the Turtles one.
The Lutheran Turtles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Peace on Earth, Goodwill to Turtles. But the other thing, another fanfic on this list was The Very Secret Diary. And so pretty much anything on this I'm game to do. And so when I was looking for a short Harry Potter fic that I had some reason to think was good, this fanfic was also on that same list.
So all of these have been good so far.
All of the ones that we've read recommended by Hairu, we've been pretty pleased with, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it definitely had some merit
Legit,
to them
then.
at least.
Yeah. And I'm sure we'll get to more in the future. Now, I don't think this fanfic is quite The Very Secret Diary, but I enjoyed reading it. Let's see. Who wants to dive in about the premise here?
Just from the title, I immediately reacted with, please let this involve Lupin in some way.
It does.
and it did, so I was quite happy.
From the title, I was like, is this going to involve The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy or something? But no, that would be mostly harmless and
Mostly.
easily domesticated, which would be a good crossover also.
My first question going into it was, what year is it supposed to be at Hogwarts?
Yeah, I wondered that too.
Hairu makes that clear on the link, but I did not actually give you that description.
It came up in one of the later chapters.
It did. I think
yeah.
they're 5th year.
Yeah, from that description, it branches off after the events of the 4th book because the author began those stories before the 5th book came out. But it's after 5th year. It's what year did you just say it actually is?
5th year.
It is 5th year. Okay.
It's 5th year, and I think does the author make this in their notes? No, they don't. But they do mention events of like the 4th. Wait, is the beginning of the 5th book or the 4th book? Now I can't remember.
They mentioned specifically that this one chapter, they have a difference in the continuity with Umbridge being in a different spot.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah, at one point they were like, "Oh, I'm actually referencing Order of the Phoenix now,"
And they
because
make
they've
her-
reached that point.
Yes, and then they make a reference to, I think that was like, no, it's actually like the 3rd book, right? When Hagrid had the
Griffin,
The Griffin.
hippogriff,
hippogriff.
hippogriffin, hypocrite.
So they make a reference to that, but it's a little vague until later on in the the chapters here.
Now, the premise is basically at the start of this new school year, Hagrid has been banned from teaching dangerous animals because Hagrid is known for teaching about dangerous animals, and there's been some incidents in previous years, right? And so he can only teach creatures that have been classified XX, harmless and easily domesticated. And X, but that's just flobber worms.
And that's his classification, as in the book, Fantastic Creatures, Fantastic Beasts, and Where to Find Them.
Right, the one that
Newt
Rowling
Scamander.
put out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
Which
author...
is like a very cute, small little paperback book.
Yeah.
I particularly liked that there's like notes from Harry in it on some of the pages. Like on this part with werewolves, it says, well, they're not all bad.
That's cute.
At the end of each chapter, the author is pitching the actual Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them book, especially since the proceeds went to charity.
Yeah.
And so they're like, hey, if you enjoyed this, go actually buy the book and support charity. And here's what I didn't mention that is content in that book, or whatever, to learn more about these creatures.
Yeah.
And so most of the fanfic is, I mean, it's an ongoing story, but it's also kind of episodic, creature by creature, as Hagrid is teaching about these various creatures. Teaching, sometimes in quotes.
Now, as a teacher yourself, Amato, what do you think of Hagrid's teaching style?
I think mostly he's a bad teacher. I I think he's got some good instincts sometimes, where it's always about like, what can you do with this creature, right? Like, what can we? And sometimes it's just like, oh, like no, what we're doing is you're taking care of these creatures, like as a class, and like that's really cool. That's hands on, and he definitely has a tendency. He always wants to find the high interest creatures. High interest to Hagrid is high danger, but still, like, high interest is good, right? He wants to find that hook. But by the time we got to, what is it, the creature that hears everything in its life, that, like, everything that it hears during its life, it repeats when it dies? And, like, for multiple days, Hagrid is like, just watch them and see if they're going to die anytime soon. just watch these birds and wait for them to die. And I was like, this is very poor lesson planning.
So, yeah, I agree. Like, from my perspective as a teacher, which is what I went to grad school for and did for a few years, it's like he actually has, like, a lot of strong intuition about what will be very interesting to the class. And he pushes boundaries, which is fantastic. But then he just doesn't think about his lesson plan at all.
Right.
And I feel like that's a funny thing, because it's like when you first start thinking, hey, I'm going to be a teacher, you're like, I'll walk into that classroom and I'll say all this stuff. You don't realize how many friggin' hours you will put, days, weekends, nonstop into lesson planning. And he doesn't do that. He doesn't think it through, and he's just like, let's go for it.
He doesn't even know what he's doing the next day.
No. And that's a great example.
Which I did love that running joke.
The running joke was great, right.
Yeah.
At the end of multiple chapters, he's always saying, next lesson's going to be Bowtruckles. but he can't actually track down a Bowtruckle in the forest, and so every time he's like, it's not Bowtruckles, we're doing this other creature.
I honestly feel like I know teachers like this. Like, people are just, like, so idealistic. Like, we're going to do this, it's going to be great, and then it just never happens. Honestly, like, teaching is, like, 89% planning out your lessons and having, like, you're not really even, especially in this system, like, effective in teaching until you've accumulated, like, a decade's worth of lesson plans that you can whip out, because you hardly have any time to plan anyway. I guess at Hogwarts, I don't know what their planning time is, but Hogwarts, like, Hagrid definitely doesn't use any of his planning time.
Does Dumbledore even check to, like, you know...
Reading this fanfic made me think, like, wait, what is the background of these teachers? And so, for example, I went and just looked at the biography of McGonagall, okay? And McGonagall, like, she went through Hogwarts, she went into the public sector for some years, and then she was invited to come teach Transfiguration at Hogwarts. And I was like, I was looking there, is there anything resembling teaching experience in this resume? There is not.
No. That's not, like, it's not uncommon, though. Like, if you think about, like, college professors usually are not hit or miss on their pedagogy, right?
Sure.
Like, we have to
college professors, yes.
Yes, but my point is that these teachers are all kind of like college professors. They're like, we have our specialty, and our teaching skills are, meh. I don't know, we could be good. Like, that's how Hogwarts always seemed to me, like a college.
So
I can see that. Yeah.
You probably have opinions here.
Oh,
who do you think the best actual teacher at Hogwarts is?
I mean, if you couldn't tell already, Lupin is my absolute favorite.
I think you may be
like,
right.
Yeah, just he's the kind of teacher that I wish I had. You know, he cares and he believes in you. Like, even the student that, like, everybody expects to fail, Neville, like, he pulls Neville up first, like, Neville, I'm gonna have you go after the Boggart. And I love that, and I love the way he mentors Harry, and like, it kind of reminds me of, like, going to therapy and doing cognitive behavioral stuff where you have to kind of go through traumatic events in your life and repeat them and repeat them and repeat them till they don't have effect on you anymore. And that's what it felt like Lupin was doing with Harry, with teaching him to use the Patronus and against the Dementors. So, and yeah, I think that's just so sad at the end when he gets kicked out, because he's a really great teacher.
Yeah.
It occurs to me that 1 year when Hagrid can't teach, he's replaced by that guest teacher, and all the characters are like, oh man, that teacher is really good, those lessons were really interesting. And, you know, there's like that bit with Harry and and Ron being all like, no, Hagrid's the best. But
But
something
even Hermione's like, oh, that was a really good lesson.
so is it just that the guest teachers are much better than the actual professors at Hogwarts? Like, I mean, we got the history teacher who's terrible.
Well,
I think McGonagall's legit.
McGonagall seems fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I gave her flack for her lack of qualifications, but she actually seems
she
fine.
actually is good.
I
Yeah.
also
Right.
think like Flitwick and Sprout are pretty good.
Yeah, you never hear any complaints about him.
That's just it. They're not exciting, so they're not on the cover.
Snape plays horrible favorites, but who doesn't at Hogwarts?
Some people.
Something.
some people, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing because, like, being from Portland, having, had to go through, grad school to become a teacher here and, like, learning all this pedagogy and it being very, like, student-centered education. It's interesting to hear this kind of, like, alternative British perspective on teaching, which, like I said, is kind of collegiate. It's kind of like the teachers are more focused on the science than they are the pedagogy. Or, right, the magic, sorry. Not the science. My bad. The magic and the pedagogy. Like, and every teacher has such a different personality, and that totally weighs in on how they teach. And none of them actually
No
seem to have
standardized
any...
curriculum here.
Yeah.
No, but also no, like, actual training to be a teacher. It's just literally like, we're going to do whatevs. And it ignores the care component of teaching, too, when you teach to such young kids. Like, they're starting this school at 11, and some of these teachers are dicks.
Yep.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
assholes
Oh, yes.
to children, and yet they still let them teach there. And I feel like it's just a very different ideology of teaching than we have here. And I don't know if that's because it's British. I don't know. What else?
Now, we may as well step through the fanfic a little bit step by step. Though the first chapter I found the least interesting. It's the creature's the augury. Well, what does it do again? It's like, I don't know.
Was that the one that screamed?
Yeah, their cry is
Yeah.
frightening. That's about it. Rain makes them cry, maybe. And people get terrified. I don't know. It was okay.
I just in general with this fic, but in like that very first chapter, I kind of was taken aback. Like, man, Hermione's a little more reckless than I'm used to. She just reached through the cage to grab one of the feathers. Okay, all right.
That's a good point.
Right. Hermione, she's reading Fantastic Beasts during the lesson because that's teaching
I
her
mean,
more than
her
Hagrid.
calling out
And-
Hagrid and stuff. Yeah, that's Hermione for sure.
But yeah, like here in the first chapter, she says, it says here that the feathers of the augury will repel ink, she said brightly. Let's test it out, shall we? And she just reaches in and grabs a feather and dips the feather in.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think that was maybe just like her confidence in that knowledge?
I think
acting, or-
possibly.
I think it might have been Hermione wanting to show off what they know. That seemed kind of
Okay.
Hermione-ish to me.
Fair enough.
In like what they thought was a fun and harmless way. And also, this is the same Hermione that still did all the, Philosopher's Stone stuff in the first year.
That's true.
Yeah, very true.
The chapter 2 is the clabbert, which I thought was pretty amusing. What is it? It's like a frog thing in shape. It's got a big pustule.
It's from America.
It's from America. They have to have it shipped in. Oh yeah.
It was like a monkey and a frog,
A creature
right?
that appeared to be part monkey and part frog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Massive white lump in the center of its forehead, and the pustule glows when danger is near. And
You.
my favorite part of it is just another Hagrid being a poor teacher. Hermione's like,
Oh my
do you
God.
mean dangerous as in magically
Yes.
powerful, or dangerous as in violent? And he says, I mean dangerous as in dangerous.
I loved that line. Yes. This is so good.
It was great. He stood directly in front of the clabbert and glared at it. Its pustule glowed very brightly indeed.
And apparently, Hagrid's lesson plan for this is to try to get the pustule to explode.
Well, the plan is just to have everyone go up to it and see how dangerous they are, which, again, high interest.
Yeah.
Everyone's very into it. The pustule exploding, I think, is a happy accident for him.
Yeah. Do we learn, like, why the pustule exploded? Is that just a matter of time?
Because
or-
Harry was the most dangerous.
Yeah, Harry
Oh.
came close, and Harry was so dangerous.
I see. So if it encounters something significantly dangerous, then its pustule explodes.
Which Hagrid was excited about.
He was excited about. Did he expect that to happen?
No,
Like,
he didn't. He just, but he was
They just
very,
didn't-
he immediately gathered up the stuff and he was
Yeah.
like, oh, this is really useful for
Oh, I
alchemy.
know.
Professor Snape will be happy.
There was actually like a funny part where it was like Harry felt something scraping on his face that was like a garden trowel. Then he realized it was just like Hagrid's little knife. Because Hagrid's his pen knife, yeah. Because Hagrid's so much bigger, which I don't feel like they properly convey in the movies. But I like this writing conveys that he is just that big.
He's really big, right?
Yeah.
I also like that Ron said, okay, next time we're doing something like this, I'm going before Harry.
Well, yeah, that whole thing is great. Hagrid's talking about how it's useful for alchemy because you make a potion with it and then it stays in your blood until up to 7 years until you really need it.
That sounds amazing.
That's awesome, and I
Yeah.
want it in D&D.
Yeah, that's such a cool effect.
And then Ron. Yeah, I wanted to find out how dangerous I am, said Ron crossly. He had been standing behind Harry in the queue. How long will it take for the pustule to grow back? Oh, around 7 years, said Hagrid offhand.
Yeah.
Well, I reckon that's all for today. Next lesson's bow truckles.
And he said that at the end of the first chapter too. That
It's
next
so-
lesson's Pro Truckle.
It's so good.
It's so good.
I love like
It's
how
funny.
early some of the lessons end too. Just with that, like,
Right.
oh, I guess we're all done for today.
It's sort of the equivalent of just wheeling in the TV and putting on West Side Story.
Yeah, except you know how long West Side Story is.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he has no qualms of like, the interesting stuff is over, we're done.
Yeah, it's like his fixation really is the magical creatures and studying them, and that's it.
Well, that's the
And I
other
love
strength.
that.
That's the other strength about Hagrid as a teacher is that he really loves these magical creatures, and like it comes across when you love your subject matter.
It's really endearing, like how he loves like even the scariest and nastiest creatures. Like,
Yeah, he's like best friends with the terrifying spiders in the
Yeah.
forest. Like, that's adorable.
it is.
Now, the thing that comes after that is an interlude, which was my least favorite part of this. It was pretty dumb.
It's pretty dumb, and also the fact that it's not that it's a repurposed something from a different fandom too.
Yeah, from the internet,
And also a reference to Jeff Foxworthy.
which we did not need.
Which,
Which is what it originally was in the first place.
yeah.
So the next chapter is the Redneck Wizard, and it's a bunch of you might be a redneck Jedi if, but they switched the word Jedi with wizard.
Yes,
That's
and-
all the work they put into it.
Yeah, they changed a couple other words.
Okay.
But it's also like, what a terrible joke in the first place. Like,
Well, we can't dissect the whole blue collar comedy tour on this podcast. We only have so much time.
but we can say it's bad, right?
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Now, what I appreciate about this, do we want to say anything about you might be a redneck wizard in particular?
I mean, if somebody wrote something about redneck wizards, I'd read it.
That would be interesting.
I'm kind of intrigued by that concept.
I was reviewing the deck of encounters, the AD&D deck of encounters on the internet because I had too much time on my hands a while ago. And one of the encounters was like this bizarre setup where like you wander into a town, there's a bat guano shortage, you need that for fireballs and all that kind of thing. And that's a problem here in this little fantasy town in AD&D land because they have like a fireball shooting competition every like annually, like some kind of magic fair. And I was like, is this some kind of like redneck wizards fireballing cans off of fences? Like this sounds amazing, and they don't go into the assumptions here.
See, I would read that. Yeah.
How many wizards are there here in this town that need guano for fireballs? Like, oh well.
It's creative. Like, and I'll give it that all of these you might be a redneck wizard if things are actually really creative here too.
Well, they're also kind of worked better when they were Jedi.
Yeah, but my main okay, and I don't know how many were borrowed from the Jedi thing too.
I think
All of
them.
All of them.
Yes.
So whatevs. So I guess we can't really like give that to the author. But anyway, they are creative, but it's frustrating that like Hermione is explaining what a redneck is to Harry, and I feel like you're uncomfortable saying that word really like, and she explicitly says that it's an offensive stereotype, and it is, because it's an offensive stereotype of like poor people living in rural areas. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's like, I get it, because there are poor people living in rural areas who are racist and have like shitty politics, and I understand why you would want to be sort of hateful towards that, but it is kind of an offensive stereotype of people living in poverty, and that's not something I gel with really well. I don't know what my 100% opinion is, but it's also like, you might be a redneck if, coming from Jeff Foxworthy, I feel like he was coming from his own experience, and if somebody else is like doing something else, and not that I like him or any of his jokes, my point is like, if somebody else is coming at it from that, it just feels weird to me, I guess.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Now, what I did like about this chapter is that after the interlude, which is the redneck wizard part, there's the actual chapter 3 in this like same part, and I loved chapter 3. I just kind of want to read the whole thing.
I just made a note. EA Lupin's here.
Oh no, that's not this chapter.
Oh, it's not this chapter?
This is
Okay.
this is chapter 3, the Diricall. I think that's how you say it. Diricawl. Next care of magical creatures lesson, Hagrid led the class
Wait, what?
to the small vegetable patch behind his house.
Yeah, that wasn't in our original.
Yes, it
Yeah,
was.
it is.
It's after the interlude.
It's
Here it
after
is.
the interlude of the redneck wizard.
Hagrid led the class to the small vegetable patch behind his house. A peculiar-looking bird was pecking contentedly amongst the cauliflowers and leeks. It resembled a fat gray chicken with a long curving neck and a great golden hook of a beak. Now this is a Diricall, said Hagrid. What you need to remember about Diricalls is that they'll disappear at the first sign of danger. Harry stepped forward to take a closer look. With a soft, feathery pop, the Diricall vanished. Ah, yeah, like that, said Hagrid. he gazed at the empty space where the Diricall had been, then said brightly, "Next lesson is Bowtruckles." Bet it's not, muttered Ron.
That was great.
That's the whole actual chapter 3. It's amazing.
Yes, it's not very long. Everything else was the interlude. I gotta say, this whole thing is really funny. Like, there are a couple points I wanted to read earlier on that were really funny.
Yes.
It's a really funny fanfic.
And it feels very true to, like, a lot of the humor that is in Harry Potter. Especially a lot of Ron's one-liners. So I'm like, oh, that is something Ron would say.
Yeah.
Now, chapter 4 of this fanfic is when we get our Lupin in. So, do you want to take the lead on that, Evelyn?
So this one is called the... I don't know if I'll pronounce it right. Chisperfles?
Perfect.
Mr. Chisperfles? I have Angie Chisperfles. Is that how you say it?
It's Chisperflay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, basically, sounds like these kind of, I don't know, little insects, I guess, or they were described as like little crabs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Hagrid brings them in for a lesson, and it causes an infestation, specifically during potions class.
They feed on magical substances.
Yes.
It says most notably the blood of other magical creatures, but apparently it's a really big problem to get them in a potions lab.
And to fix the infestation, they call on Professor Remus Lupin, who now is a private exterminator, which is awesome.
Which is apparently happening in a different fanfic concurrently.
Yeah, which I might need to read now.
I mean, that's a good premise.
Yes.
I watched that show, yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of... I don't know. What can we compare that to?
Like those ghost hunting shows,
Yeah.
maybe?
Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, but with Lupin and magical creatures.
Don't make me imagine that on motto.
This is Lupin as played by... No, okay. We won't do it. We won't do it. Right, so they call in Lupin. What were the circumstances of Lupin needing to leave the school? I forget.
Oh, they found out he was a werewolf.
Right, and there's
Yeah.
a law against him being a
Mostly
teacher?
a stigma.
A stigma.
Yeah, all the
like-
parents were going to pull the kids out.
Parents.
Yeah.
Okay, so having him just in to like get rid of some magical creatures is not the same kind of controversy, I guess.
Yeah, like, from what I remember reading, like there's just a stigma against werewolves in the wizarding world until like after the second Wizarding War, and because of the fighting Lupin did, it kind of helped to lift the stigma against werewolves. And
Well, he's one of the good ones.
yeah,
He's, a credit to his race.
And even in this chapter, you have all the students that don't know Lupin still afraid of Lupin.
yes.
Well, yeah, it's a fun dynamic where, like, the older students are telling horror stories about Lupin. Like, our example is Fred and George telling
Yes.
someone...
Because they
I was
would.
gonna say,
Yeah.
mostly Fred and George.
Yeah.
Our example, at least, is Fred and George telling some younger kids who weren't there when Lupin was a teacher. Obvious, really, why the Ministry never caught Sirius Black. That night he was loose in the grounds, Professor Lupin ate him right up. And that's funny, but it's also very true that, like, Harry notices that Lupin is visibly hurt by the fact that, like, the younger kids are terrified of him because of these joke stories.
That
going
sucked,
around.
yeah.
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 Like, that's totally true, it feels like.
Yeah.
Fred and George are assholes.
It's not just Fred and George, but Fred and George are assholes, yes. Back when we were reading The Very Secret Diary, and, one of the things is Ginny complaining about, like, her brothers being total jerks to her, and it's like, yep, your brothers are pretty jerky to you a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
are.
All except, like, Percy, I think, in that,
Yeah.
that fanfic.
Yeah, in that fanfic in particular, Percy was, like, trying to be a good brother.
Yeah.
Anyway, Lupin and such.
Let's see. The younger kids are terrified of him, and then let's see.
I mean, there's comedic
Yeah.
incidents like happen. Like he has some sort of horrible concoction to help get rid of these little creatures. and
yes.
Crab drinks some of it for some reason.
Eat some treacle.
Yeah.
Whatever treacle is.
And apparently it just looks like some fucking weird slime that's really disgusting.
He's like,
but-
I didn't think they'd want to eat it.
Treacle's like sap or something like that.
Is
Yeah.
that right?
Thick, viscous.
But isn't it
fluid.
something
It
that you
is,
can
in
make to
general.
eat that gets referenced in like Wonderland, Alice in Wonderland?
You make treats and stuff out of treacle.
Oh, you make stuff out of it.
Okay.
Okay. Kind of
Yeah.
like maple syrup sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, like Harry, Ron, and Hermione, I think they look on the Marauders map to find Lupin to go cheer him up, and then they find him near the Slytherin common room.
Snape and Lupin kind of have a little exchange about Lupin being irresponsible because Crabbe ate a bunch of this dangerous stuff versus like no one would actually drink that, and it's your job to teach him not to drink magical random substances that you have around.
Like, seriously, it totally is. Like,
Yeah, you should teach your kids not to eat random stuff they find on the floor.
I mean, it's not really like Snape's fault per se, but it is like, come on, nobody would really like go into a like. Where did he even go to get it? Like
like
into
Lupin's office. Or
Lupin's
where-
office, and he
yeah.
was like, "That looks delicious." Like, nah, dude, you go to magic school. Like, nothing is delicious.
I mean, even if you-
Specify.
Even if you don't go into like a janitor's closet and just eat whatever you find lying around.
Just like, that says bleach. Looks yummy.
Anti-rat tablet. Well, I'm not a rat, so I should be okay.
And so for the rest of the fanfic, Lupin's kind of around, which is nice.
Yeah. I really loved this line from Ron at the end. Not Snape's fault. These two idiots go around eating everything they see. He's a potions master, not a troll trainer. It's true.
They're so hard on those two. I mean, those two are obviously like bad kids, but
There's
like,
like straw man bullies, like
I know it's such a hard thing, like Crabbe and Goyle, because nobody should be mad at them for like eating random stuff that they find like that. I mean, they should question it and wonder why it's happening.
Yeah.
But, it's not an evil thing to do. It's just like, wow, that's a weird, like, somebody needs to figure out what's going on with these guys. And obviously they're bullies in other ways, but everybody makes fun of them for eating whatever they see. And I feel like that's, I don't know, kind of problematic, I
It
guess.
sounds like nobody watched them when they were kids.
Yeah.
No one told them they weren't supposed to do that.
Where they just have, like...
well, that or background of food insecurity.
Correct,
It's the kind of thing where
yes.
teachers just like have a bunch of granola bars for those kids, and they're like, "Hey, have a granola bar." Like,
That's
If you're hungry,
exactly
eat
what I
that.
was thinking. Like an eating disorder or like pica or something
Right.
that makes
Oh,
them just want
yeah,
to eat
yeah.
whatever. Because it's obviously an issue stemming from insecurities in some sort.
Yeah,
so.
I had a niece that ate chunks of the wall because of pica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not uncommon. It's actually pretty common.
It's true.
I feel like if the issue is not caused by some sort of magic, the Wizarding World doesn't want to hear about it.
Also, Amanda, when are we going to get our Crab and Goyle fanfic? The one that really fleshes them out as characters.
It's got to be out there.
Oh,
man.
sure. Yeah.
It's almost certainly Crab Goyle Slash because, like, I mean, that's just sitting there.
Can we just, like, for one instant, make them distinct from one another? I think that would be, I don't know.
That'd be great,
Yeah. They're not the same person.
aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess they kind of are.
They're kind of like the Hitchcock and Scully and Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Sorry, maybe I'm the only one who watches that.
You might be.
What fanfic's that from?
That's the only media we've consumed for most of a year. Yeah, they could be a lot more like Fujin and Raijin from Final Fantasy VIII, right? Where they're like right-hand goons, but they're completely distinct mannerisms. That would probably be better.
Or why are those two guys that die in every Final Fantasy?
That's Biggs and Wedge, but they're interchangeable.
right.
Anyway, chapter 5, this is out of 7. This fanfic's so short that we can actually go chapter by chapter, which we don't always have the luxury of doing, but, like, we totally can here. Chapter 5 is called The Bowtruckle.
Actually, Bowtruckle.
Actually, Bowtruckle. But before we get to the Bowtruckle, there's a few, like, little brief asides, and that includes the part I was talking about where it's like, oh yeah, you have to wait for these things to die naturally, so keep an eye out for signs that they're gonna die. That's the
Jobberknolls?
lesson.
I think they're-
Jobberknolls.
Jobberknolls. They're a protected species, so you can't kill them. Which makes sense that they would be hunted to extinction, considering their one trick is their death trick.
Right, like, you plant one for a while because they're silent, they don't make any noise.
Yeah.
And, like, use them as a like,
Party
bug,
trick.
you know, a listening device, and then you have to murder them.
That was something the British aristocracy would do.
Yeah, that checks out.
By the time we get to Bowtruckles, I don't really understand why Hagrid's so excited about them. They don't seem that great. It's like they're little gremlins that live in a tree. Is that pretty much it?
I think they're actually more dangerous than 2X.
No, is this the one where they keep saying, like, oh yeah, right. Everyone's like, Bowtruckles are only XX? And Hermione keeps pointing to all of the, like, various editions dating back 50 years of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. It's like, yep, it's XX. That's the official designation. Right. So no wonder Hagrid's way into them. It's the most dangerous thing he could teach about.
It kind of reminds me of, like, with dogs, like, you know, so many places will label, like, pit bulls as dangerous and say, well, they're really not. And then there will be, like, little dogs that will hurt you.
Yes.
And they're, like, considered not dangerous, and most departments allow them, so.
Yeah, it's all breed stereotyping, which is really sad. My apartment complex told me I couldn't adopt a pit bull, so I deliberately didn't. My dog is an Akita and Shepherd mix. After I adopted her, I realized that Akita and German Shepherds are both also restricted breeds. But they never asked me again what breed she was, so it's fine.
That's good.
Also, she might be part pit.
Does she have any fantastic abilities?
Yes, she can destroy a toy in like 0.2 seconds. She can unhook her own harness. And here's her most famous special ability. She can get, like, if her leash is hooked around her body when we're walking, I'll say, fix your leash, and she'll just, like, step over it until it's perfect again.
That is amazing.
awesome.
That's pretty good.
She's brilliant.
On a rating scale of 1 to 5 X's, how dangerous is she?
Maybe 4.
Same as a troll.
Depends. It really depends who you are. She's harmless, but if you're a threat, she's quite dangerous.
I think that's, like, how Hagrid looks at all the creatures in the wizarding world. It's like, well, as long as you're not bothering them.
Yeah, exactly that. Like, if you were Red's enemy, she would destroy you. But no one's her enemy. She loves all her friends.
I like you said destroy. Like it'd be like destroy my social life or something.
I mean, she would dox you, for sure, if you were her enemy.
I guess I do keep finding these teaching strengths of Hagrid's because, yeah, for introducing the Bowtruckle, he's like, oh yeah, like this is what not to do. It's like they get really aggressive if they think their tree's threatened. So he's threatening their tree and it jumps at him. It just sinks its teeth into Hagrid. And then I guess the other thing about this chapter is that it's the author's turn to pick on Goyle. Crabbe got picked on in the previous chapter.
Wait, which one's which?
Well, Crabbe wears the red cap and Goyle wears the blue cap. And Doik wears the green cap. What was I on?
What?
I just made up a third one. I don't know.
Doik?
But for it to be Huey, Dewey, and Louie style.
I see.
Nice.
Have you heard of Fooey?
No.
Huey, Dewey, Louie, and Fooey? Fooey is the name for the fourth brother.
Oh, because there's like they accidentally drew an extra leg.
Sometimes the artist will lose track and it'll just be like an extra leg sticking out like a crowd scene.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
It's the other brother they just don't talk about.
Yeah, that's Fooey.
I would love. I've been watching the new DuckTales,
Yeah.
and that's pretty fun. I would love for them to be like a Phantom Fooey episode.
It's pretty good so far.
so good.
yeah.
I'm told their Darkwing Duck homage episode was really fun. Just
Yeah.
now.
I haven't seen that yet.
Oh my god, I was obsessed with Darkwing Duck when I was a kid.
Well, because that Launchpad in the series has the same birth date as the original DuckTales TV show.
Okay.
So sometime in '87. So Launchpad grew up watching Darkwing Duck.
Right.
Oh my god, just like me.
Yeah, and loves it. And has
beautiful.
every episode on VHS.
That's adorable.
I personally really like how they changed the character of Webby.
Yeah.
And gave her a lot of agency.
To be their own
like,
character.
Yes, yes.
Gotta do something.
And now she's like cute and nerdy and
And her aesthetic is sick as fuck.
yes.
Like,
yes.
oh my
I
god.
also really like that voice actor, Kate Micucci,
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
who was Sadie in Steven Universe also.
Oh,
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
It's in a lot of PBS kids shows too.
And like every other
Yeah.
cartoon now.
Yeah.
So what were we talking about?
We got this fanfic. I mean, we can finish up talking about the content of the fanfic. It's so short.
Yeah.
Chapter 6, they open by saying, like, oh, they learned about ghouls. And I like that they bring in the talked-about ghoul who lives in the attic of the Weasley house.
The girl is very shy.
Hagrid got Mrs. Weasley to bring the one from the burrow to show the students, but this proved to be rather a disappointment. The ghoul was highly distressed at being removed from its attic and clung to Mrs. Weasley's robe, sobbing the whole time.
Oh.
I know, it's so sad.
Although the word ghoul doesn't really conjure good images.
Well, it eats corpses, probably, right? If that's a Lovecraftian kind of ghoul thing.
Yeah, right. Ghouls are like ghosts essentially, but
Maybe.
more zombie like.
I forgot
Perhaps.
what Harry Potter ghouls were. Were they
I have
just
no
like
idea.
a
I don't
creature
think
that
you can
ate dead
find out.
things? Yeah.
I don't know.
We'll never know.
Harry Potter wiki.
If it's a Lovecraftian ghoul, they meep, and it's very cute. That's the noise they make. Meeping ghouls.
Aww.
Meep, meep.
Aww.
Like the Roadrunner?
I guess.
Yeah, the cutest. Adorable.
When you see them in the Dreamlands and the Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, it's like, oh, these ghouls that live deep underground. It's so adorable, and they're so friendly.
Did they also meet underground?
They probably meep underground, yes.
Okay.
If a ghoul meeps underground.
It's a magical creature that resembles a slimy bucktooth ogre.
Okay. So I guess they're harmless and
Adorable.
easily domesticated.
Yeah. Dim-witted, live off bugs and other household pets. Well, they're like spiders, but less gross. More gross? Also gross.
Oh, okay. Would you rather have spiders crawling around the walls or tiny, slimy ogres crawling around the walls eating your bugs?
Definitely tiny slimy ogres.
Well, you have a phobia of spiders, so that's a gimme for you.
That's one for a video game, apparently.
That's pretty cute.
Aww.
Okay.
Way cuter than the spider.
Well, how big are the spiders?
I think I'd be more distressed by the ghouls if they were the size of a spider, if they were like humanoid shape, but like
Oh my
that
God.
big.
can we just turn all the spiders into ghouls? I'm down with that. Yo.
Tiny humanoid thing sounds terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, I would actually rather they be like the size of a dog or something, where it's like, oh, the ghoul's over there.
No,
Yeah.
what? You would rather a ghoul be the size of a dog than the size of, like, your thumbnail?
Then it'd be a tiny humanoid. Like, I'm not even thinking the size of my thumbnail. I think like a normal spider's like half that, you know? Like just like a
Okay.
human that big on the walls.
But you'd be
find it-
totally okay with it if it was, like, a dog-sized humanoid.
As a household pet, I find that less distressing, yes.
I think at least
my
like
God.
Christmas elf sized.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, Christmas elf.
I
Elf
don't
on the shelf
understand.
size.
I do not
Elf on the
understand
shelf
y'all.
size, yeah.
The ghoul in the... on the stool.
Ghoul on the stool.
Ghoul on the stool. It's a new Christmas tradition. I would say new Halloween tradition, but no, let's just make it Christmas.
Sure, yeah.
Of course you can make it Christmas a motto because you're Jewish.
You know what? Can we market the ghoul on the stool and make a lot of money right now for Halloween?
Yeah, okay, I'll make a lot of money. That sounds cool. Yeah. If that's an option.
I feel like we can tap into the dumb derivative novelty market.
I'd want to tell you this wouldn't work, but I don't trust, capitalism in America enough to
I
say
feel
that
like,
wouldn't work.
for some reason, I feel like that already exists. Like, it just sounds so familiar.
Well, the branding specifically doesn't exist.
Like,
so
a walk
okay.
it in my pocket. Like, it's
That's
just...
in your pocket, Tori.
Yeah.
No, but do you remember there's the Neller and the Geller and the Beller and then
in the cellar.
Zeller and the Cellar? There's so many more. I feel like the ghoul on the stool, it's already in the book.
I think we'd have to fight off lawsuits from the Elf on the Shelf people, but
I don't know if it's parody, though. Then,
It's parody because the elf on the shelf is serious business.
yeah.
Whereas clearly the ghoul on the stool is going to be a
It's a
comic.
But he's
Elf
just
on
a
the
chill
shelf.
dude. Like, he's gonna hang out with you.
maybe he talks about dietary health or
And
something.
he doesn't snitch on Santa for you, so
Dang.
Something the elf on the shelf does?
Yeah,
yeah.
he watches.
And he goes and reports to Santa every
That-
night.
I didn't think that was necessary in the Santa operation. I thought Santa
It-
just had that information
Well,
accessible.
no.
Well, extra oversight's always good.
That's how he sees you. Has
Okay.
many minions. It's been established.
So
That's
there's-
like terrifying for kids, right?
A lot of kids get terrified of it, yeah.
Because they do the whole play where the parents tell them this is an actual thing and they move it from room to room when they're sleeping.
Uh-huh.
Well, and I know some parents set up rules too, where oh, you can't touch him, otherwise the magic won't work, or I don't know.
It's fucking weird.
Yeah.
Like, I've encountered a lot of different stuff with this. Like, parents being like, I want my kids to believe, and then going way over the top.
Maybe there's just a little bit too much gaslighting for kids.
Correct. Yeah. It's like, it's one thing if your kids are like, I believe in Santa Claus, and you're like, okay, hon. It's another thing if you're like, yes, Santa is watching you with his many eyes.
Santa's rated four X's. It's covered with eye stalks and claws.
Yeah, Santa watches you and then disappears in the angled space.
Well, now I think we need a Santa Defense Against the Dark Arts class.
Defense
that.
against Santa Claus.
Yeah.
All right. So the point is in this next chapter, because of some various things, Hagrid there's an official complaint made to the Ministry of Magic, probably by the Malfoys, who are jerks, about magical creatures showing up, or that are XXX for hire, including glumbumbles, winged horses, and bowtruckles, and they send a group to investigate. And meanwhile, Hagrid has ordered a bunch of fairies, which he thinks are super boring, but at least they're harmless and he can teach them. But they've been replaced with other things,
Someone just sent him a box of doxies.
and that
Yes.
someone is clearly Lucius Malfoy, right?
Yeah, and Hagrid's just seeing this went, oh cool, a bunch of cool magical creatures.
Right.
Let's keep this in the house where
I know.
the officials can see it.
Hagrid seems so silly in this. I wish he had a little more, presence of mind and agency. I'm not gonna lie. But he's just like, oh, I'm gonna open it up. Oh, it's Doxies. I don't know what to do. And luckily, Hermione is there.
He thought they were fairies, even. He was like, oh, these are cute. So
that's true, yeah.
And then Hermione was the one who like, no, Hagrid? What?
That actually rung the weirdest to me because it's like he's supposed to be the teacher and he didn't know what they were. And I feel like maybe that's true to the source. Like, I didn't read all the Harry Potter books, but it kind of feels like Hagrid to me. But it also feels a little uncomfortable. Like, if he's the teacher of this subject, shouldn't he know what a fairy is and isn't? Like,
I would still expect him to, yeah.
yeah.
I think Hagrid just likes dangerous beasts so much that fairies doesn't even show up on their radar.
Right.
So if you show him something and say that's a fairy, that goes, yeah, okay.
He just doesn't care.
Yeah, but
Oh, hey, these are dangerous. These are cooler than I thought they were.
Doxies are supposed to be dangerous. So if he's interested in dangerous things, wouldn't he be able to distinguish that's a Doxie, correct?
Quit
Or
throwing your
no?
logic at my...
Sorry. Didn't mean to. Just came out.
There are only 3 X's, not Hagrid's favorites.
But still not what Hagrid's supposed to be teaching.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Hermione, who is the one who solves problems, is the one who comes up with immediately comes up with a plan here.
She
because-
should be a lawyer. Like, she was ready to, everything she needed.
Because the ministry inspectors are like on their way to the door right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so she's like, okay, magic, magic, magic to make them look more like fairies. Not exactly like fairies, but close enough.
She, like, shaves them.
And then, like, as the inspectors are getting close, they, like, carry out the cage and accidentally drop it, and they all get free. And they're like, oh, no, there go the fairies.
Oh, no. And Mr. Malfoy tries to Astio some Doxies, and somebody's in the back just counterspelling the entire time.
Right. So Hermione's just expecting him to do that, and she's whispering the counterspell over and over.
And
like,
they go, see? They're not Doxies. They're not coming.
It's, you know,
It's dramatic.
if you like people who are competent, then Hermione's a good character for you.
And they try
Yes.
to put all these claims against Hagrid that he's been doing illegal stuff, like teaching Glumbumbles. And then they said, like, Hermione said, he's never taught Glumbumbles. One of them, Crab, just went in and stole some treacle and ate it. And,
Right.
And everybody else is like, that's stupid.
But she's also like, here's the documentation with the affidavits from multiple teachers signed.
Yeah.
And
from Lupin and Snape.
Yeah, she basically just plays lawyer and totally wins the case.
that-
And also doctor's evidence,
Yes.
considering the Doxies.
Because
Yeah.
Hagrid wasn't prepared at all.
so you're right, lawyer all over it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Except that Hagrid admits that, like, he wanted to find fairies, he couldn't find fairies, and then they just showed up, which was Lucius Malfoy. So, yeah, Hermione doesn't admit that all that happened, but nonetheless, she gets him off.
And for,
Because Hagrid never ordered Doxies,
and for the Bowtruckle attack, she's like, no, these things are rated XX, and here's a copy of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and here's earlier editions from 69, 35, and 27. And I like how everyone's comment is like,
Really?
they're going to have to reclassify those things.
Yeah.
Only 2X? Okay.
Yeah, no, because they all came in expecting, like, I think that was their main piece of evidence. It was like, you shouldn't be teaching Bowtruckles, they're super dangerous. And they came in and they were like, you're teaching Bowtruckles. And they were like, actually, they're totally harmless. And they were like, no, what? No,
Well,
what?
they're like, well, that is the official designation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were like, our mistake.
Yeah, according to Ministry of Magic classification, they're
Right.
harmless. Yeah.
Correct, yeah. And it's funny because it seems like that was their main premise there.
And then Malfoy does something super salty by seeding the entire lawn with Horklumps,
Oh, yes.
which is an invasive species? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so.
They're like an animal that mimics a fungus that takes over your lawn. Actually, they did a good job in this fanfic the author did of, in the first, like, paragraph, or the first, like, 3 lines of the first chapter, they mentioned Horklumps as being, like, the worst thing you can possibly get. They're like, we're going to teach Horklumps, Hagrid.
Oh, yeah, and he
it's
says
like,
there'll be no Horklumps coming through the Hogwarts gates as long as I'm keeper of keys and grounds.
Yes.
I never noticed that, yeah.
Yeah. I noticed it when I was looking back through the chapter. But then, yes, Hermione obviously notices, or maybe Harry, because they're the noticing people, notice, like, white powder streaming They actually phrase it in a really funny way. They're like, Lucius was so upset he was steaming, and then they're like, oh no, this steam is actually a white powder falling from his robes, and he's just seeding the lawn with this plant/animal/fungus that is super impossible to get rid of.
Ron notices this stuff too sometimes.
Maybe it was Ron. I don't know.
By the way, in regards to Hermione being a great lawyer/bureaucrat, what canonically does she do as a profession as an adult?
Okay, I feel like I need to double check it, but if I remember correctly, she works for the ministry.
Okay.
I think she becomes like head of like magical law enforcement.
Okay, career bureaucrat, I'm fine with that.
It's one of
Yeah.
those things in the last chapter. I kind of just blocked the entire last chapter out of my mind.
Wait, so she's like the chief of police?
She's going to be the one
Basically.
sitting behind the desk saying, like, you're a loose cannon.
Wow.
You're a loose cannon.
That's horrible.
Another screw up and you're off the force.
God, I would have hoped that she would have become a good person. She would seem like a good... Anyway, whatever.
It's like, yeah, like she and Harry end up working for the ministry after the war, and that's not something I could
strange.
picture.
No.
Like, because the books to me always have a theme of like, stick it to the man, and like you shouldn't follow rules that are unjust.
Yeah, use your own judgment.
Yes. So
Yes.
it just seems odd to me that they'd go and work for the ministry.
It says on the
It's pretty messed up.
wiki she found employment in the Ministry of Magic, furthering the cause for the better treatment of house elves.
Okay, well,
Oh,
that's...
yeah.
Oh, well,
Afterwards promoted to Department of Magical Law Enforcement. Yeah, that's what they say, I think.
Okay, so
I suppose there's an idealism there that things in the ministry are improving, perhaps.
By the year
but-
2019, Hermione had become Minister for Magic.
Okay.
Oh, okay. That
And
makes
she
sense.
just takes over the whole thing.
Takes over the system rather than changing the system. Whatever. Maybe she got jaded.
Then there will be the revolution, the house elves will be on top.
That's what I would hope, personally.
I feel like, yeah, house elves are just make me so uncomfortable, but
Yes.
I think the only way I can really figure it out in my mind is like maybe they were once golden retrievers and then they were all turned into elves, and that's why they're just so eager to help everybody.
But they're not eager to help everybody. They're actually slaves.
Yeah.
I feel like that's actually... I mean, like, I understand, like... I get it, wanting
Yeah.
to make that justification. It's just
It's-
like, nah, that's not actually how it is. Even a golden retriever wants to have its freedom,
It's
right?
true,
Like,
yeah.
These folks...
And this is why fanfic has been so great, that you can change the things that are problematic about it.
Totally, yeah.
So chapter 7 starts with this Horklump invasion
Right,
of
and
the castle grounds.
class for a while involves weeding these things. And apparently you can never really get rid of all of them, but, like, he enlists all of his students to be helping weed them to get it down to a manageable level that he can then, like, kind of maintain on his own.
Yeah, since they've already done Bowtruckles, this was their class for the week.
I like that they actually got to Bowtruckles and didn't have that be, like, the very last chapter,
Yeah.
or you know, a thing that, like, never actually happened.
No, it just causes a big, like, conflict.
Right, so after that thing of weeding Horklumps and stuff, eventually they've been trying to get a more interesting creature in, and Hermione has been pestering the ministry seeking permission to obtain specimens of magical fish called remoras. And, like, I get it, but that's not your job, Hermione. Like, it's really not your job?
I mean, that's the action of a future Minister of Magic.
I guess so.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, yeah, I was planning the curriculum for my Fantastic Beasts class, whatever, magical creatures,
Care of magical creatures.
when
Yeah.
I was in 5th year.
Quick break, I gotta pee.
Sure.
Yeah, I was gonna open this.
What Harry Potter fanfics did you read in these, like, first few years of your fandom, 2003, 2005 or so? Anything memorable?
Trying to think. Nothing that memorable. Yeah, just lots of weird romance stuff.
Did you read Draco Dormiens?
I don't think I did.
It's one of the famous ones.
All right.
That's the other one we did besides The Very Secret Diary.
Yeah, like, for me, it was mostly writing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a friend I mentioned that got me into it, we had another friend, we wrote a whole series of fanfic where we just Mary Sued ourselves into the series, because that's what you do.
What house was your Mary Sue in?
Gryffindor, which, yeah, just that way we could interact with the main characters.
Right, that's totally,
Certainly.
that makes total sense.
Yes.
And I feel like it wasn't until later that people were like, liking Slytherin just to be contrary.
Oh my god.
Like, I mean, I kept waiting for more Slytherin work in the books, and it just never really happened.
There should have been something.
It feels like it should have been like something, because there's always the implication like Snape has positive qualities, like there are positive qualities of the Slytherins.
And I liked what's his name, the dark arts teacher in book 6.
Yeah.
Where it's like,
Yeah.
it's not that
Slughorn, yeah.
he's evil, but he plays favorites and he's really interested in like fame and fame association.
Yeah,
and, like
right.
he has his moments of kind of being a good guy, like it's not. He's,
I mean, in comparison.
But their motivation was just collecting people they knew.
right?
Yeah. And collecting favors.
Yeah. And like that making them feel big and important, and like that was a much better than just like, well, they are a Ku Klux Klan member.
Yeah.
They are a treacherous Ku Klux Klan member. Not
Right.
a loyal one.
They're evil and hateful.
Actually,
Which is the
like, I'm sorry, go on.
no, just like that's normally what you get from Slytherin.
Yeah.
So I was happy with that. And I was like, well, surely there will be some kind of like big Slytherin work in book 7, and there wasn't.
No.
Yeah,
was
they
the
should have had
opposite.
Slytherins fighting alongside everybody else for the Battle of
At
Hogwarts.
least.
At least.
Because that would have taken less effort than the opposite of saying like all the Slytherins left.
Yeah, instead they put more effort into
weird, yeah.
excluding Slytherins.
Right.
Yeah. It's kind of weird because, like, you're going to get this Gryffindor Slytherin opposition, and that plays out for a while, like, especially when they're young. You kind of get it because it's more petty when they're young.
Yeah.
It becomes, like, actual, real-world politics and the difference between being, like, as we phrased it before, like a wizard racist or not. So you think some of these kids would develop differences of opinion. But instead, no, it's the Gryffindor-Slytherin conflict still being played out. Despite the fact they're 11 versus, like, 18.
Sure.
And then Hufflepuffs and Ravenclaws are what?
They're there also.
They're there? Yeah. Like, where, why, how?
They fill in the rest.
They fill in and they just kind of fall in line with the Gryffindors. Like, you don't even get that idea of, like, the idea, like, Slytherins are all evil, okay, whatever. But you don't get an idea that any of the other, like, marginal houses even fall in with them. They're just sort of, like, weirdly supporting of Gryffindor as this leadership house.
You know, I've been
it's just
following
weird.
Brexit for the past few months, and this might be a reflection of British politics, actually. Because you have the main party and the opposition party.
Okay.
And then you have all the minor parties that just kind of have to fall in line with the main party in order to get anything done.
I suppose, yeah.
I might be reading way too much into this.
I don't think you are, like, because there is that, like, I don't know,
You-
Slytherin's weird.
Also, Tori, you said Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff are just kind of there.
I said that, yeah.
Oh, you said that, Dom. Ravenclaw's a lot more there than Hufflepuff is.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's Cedric.
Full stop.
There's
Yeah.
there's Newt.
There's Newt.
Okay, what is Cedric Hufflepuff?
Yeah.
Was.
See, was good point. My main point
Too
here
soon, man.
is that
That was the point in the books
it's
where
been
like
like 15 years.
We're
Like,
like-
come on.
where like Cedric was the Hufflepuff's only point of pride. Like,
Yes. My main point is that people have pointed out to me what house Cedric was in like multiple times, and it never ever sticks. Like, I think Hufflepuff is the best house as far as qualities go. Like, they're just like kind, caring, good. Like, that's
Are
how.
they? Is that actually in canon? Do we actually learn that?
No, it's not, but it's supposed to be. But that's my main point. Is like we have no
And the
Hufflepuff
fandom,
characters,
again,
and we
is
even can
like-
like forget.
This is where the fandom again is expanded way better on the houses than Rowling had.
Oh, I just remembered the Harry Potter fanfic I wanted to write, except like all fanfics, I didn't actually have the commitment to write a fanfic. This is going to have to go in the pot of like when I have the money to sponsor a fanfic contest like that role-playing game one, it's just
Yeah.
like, here's my list of prompts. It was going to be a mystery series with like a young Hufflepuff teaming up with a painting of a famous detective to solve mysteries in Hogwarts.
Oh, I love it.
I'd read
Yeah.
this.
It's
Yes.
beautiful.
Shut up and take my money. Yeah, that's great.
I remember I was like excited about that for a hot second and like planning out some things. I mean, at some point in my life. Yeah.
But I do love the way the Hufflepuff common room is described. It's basically like a hobbit hole. I'm like, yeah, this is my house.
Yeah.
I was picturing a lot of beanbag chairs.
Yeah.
And also the way you get into the Hufflepuff common room is just knowing the rhythm and the right barrel. So like if a Hufflepuff trusts you and that they can tell you, then you can totally get in too.
And they don't really ever change it
Yeah.
either. It's just
So it's about loyalty and trust, as
That's
opposed to like
lovely.
Ravenclaw, where you have to prove you're smarter than everybody else in order to get inside
Which
your
is terrible.
bed.
Like, why have we not gotten down on Ravenclaw more often?
Is that what Ravenclaw does for their thing? You have to like solve a.
They have a
Yes.
riddle. Yeah.
So Hermione can just go into the Ravenclaw common room anytime
yeah, like
at all times.
It's implied. Yeah.
I was watching a video essay about Ravenclaws, and they were saying that like the reason Hermione is not a Ravenclaw is because like Ravenclaws are a lot more like open-minded and kind of open to different ideas, whereas Hermione
They are.
that's at least
They're
this.
supposed to be like intellectuals.
Yeah,
like,
they are. Yeah,
Which-
but kind of.
I know that's not
But like
going together too well.
yeah.
But like Trelawney is a Ravenclaw.
uh-huh.
We're like a little more out there and a little more like. But then you have Hermione who just straight up leaves her class and it's like this is
Yeah.
bullshit and
Hermione definitely seems like an intellectual,
yes.
which seems like to me how Ravenclaws were described as like ivory tower academics.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
But
If they're supposed to
apparently
be-
not.
If they're supposed to be
I'm
more
just
like having
confused.
philosophical
I'm sorry,
discussions
I'm
or talking
so-
about theory of mind or like cosmological big issues or something, like that did not come across in the books.
Yeah.
Well, because that would be like what I would be
A little more
interested
with
in,
Luna,
but
I
that's not
suppose.
intellectualism. That's like
Oh.
the opposite.
Right,
It's
'cause
like not adhering.
Luna was a Ravenclaw,
Yes.
right? And Luna was not an
Oh,
intellectual.
she was.
Yeah, she was.
Well, it was more of a fringe
Oh.
theorist.
Well,
I thought,
she's-
but I thought she was supposed to be presented as kind of like a, odd specimen of a Ravenclaw. I don't know.
I don't know. I think just presented as an odd specimen of a person, like not necessarily of her house. So I guess I can see that. I didn't realize she was a Ravenclaw. I'm not very versed in Harry Potter. I'm not gonna lie.
That's why I'm here.
Yes, thank you. You've enlightened me. Maybe I like Ravenclaws more than I thought. I always thought they were just academics, and my experience with academia is.
But it's
not
kind of
positive,
expanded
so.
universe definition of Ravenclaw.
Well, sure, but I mean, I think the thing about Harry Potter is the fandom has really made it.
Yeah.
Like, has really made the whole world. Like, for 20 years now, the fandom has been actively working
But, like,
to
I-
make the universe.
I also like the expanded universe definition of Slytherin too. It's just like
yes.
progressive and like goal oriented and like driven.
Sure. I mean, that makes more sense to me than them being like, we're all fucking evil, even though we're 11 years old. Like, what? No.
Gryffindor, the racist house.
And I've seen like read some things where they try to justify it as like, well, the books are from Harry's perspective, and that's why Slytherins are portrayed so horribly. But I don't know.
I've actually like always really struggled with that because Snape has always seemed like a sympathetic character. The fandom has really latched onto him as a sympathetic character. He obviously has flaws and issues he's dealing with, but like he's so evil to Harry, it's kind of hard to like him because at the start of the books, Harry
He's
is 11
terrible.
and he's a grown man.
Yes,
So you
he's-
can't like him. You can't like him
Oh,
because
he's-
who would treat a child that way?
What-
Nobody.
yeah.
Who, except someone who is evil.
He's
What
a
adult
bully.
would bully a 11-year-old
Like,
kid?
literally, yeah. And that's kind of the Roald Dahl aspect where it's like those boundaries are crossed, right? So you
Like,
kind of have to be a little forgiving, but it's also just like, no, you can't like that character. And you can't end up liking any of the Slytherins in the book because ultimately they cross boundaries that shouldn't be crossed.
Like, I'd argue that Snape is an interesting character, but good. Like, when my son was asking me, he's like, is Snape evil? I'm like, well, it's complicated. He's not good. He's not
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't. Yeah.
Snape's a dick.
Yes.
He's
Adventure
just an
time.
asshole, yeah.
Well, it's not good. It's not evil. but it's not good. It's a neutral snail. Or whatever.
I do like
Whatever it is.
how...
Unaligned ant.
It's an unaligned.
Yeah. I do like how Harry Potter, like, the books do explore the fact that there's, not really good or evil. There's just complicated people with complicated motivations. But I don't feel like they ever really get to what those motivations are.
Speaking
I
of
wish they'd been more explicit, I guess.
speaking of getting to things, this last part of the fanfic is chapter
What?
7
You're reading a fanfic?
with the Remoras. So I don't know if we're going to cut all that
yeah.
previous conversation or whatever.
Anyways, I think we have to put that in.
It's all going to be like after the credits.
I thought that
it's
was...
too long for that. I think I might
Fair
just put it in chronologically, like after the break, like in the middle of talking about chapter 7.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So
Might just have to.
whatever you like.
Well, I was talking assuming you wouldn't put that in, but okay. No.
You can cut it down a little if you want.
Just cut out everything I said. No, I'm just...
So Hermione is like bugging the Ministry about like giving them permission to import some Remoras, and like I said, I don't know why that's falling to her, except that I guess she's got too much free time between spending all her time studying.
It's not your job, Hermione.
It's like all of a sudden, too, in this fanfic, like ever since she defended Hagrid, which was really unexpected, too. It was like all of a sudden, I'm Hagrid's legal defense, and then now I'm getting all of the magical creatures for him, too. Like,
Maybe Hermione's worried that if Hermione doesn't choose the magical creatures, Hagrid will.
Also,
I can see
like,
that.
yeah, like, the whole thing of, like, a box just shows up and Hagrid accepts it. That's so in character for him.
Okay.
That, like, he would not question where it came from or, like...
But counterpoint, okay? What does Dumbledore do all day? Because he's not going over curriculum.
No.
He's not sitting in on classes.
He's not looking after Hagrid.
Because you'd think it would be much easier, like, rather than a student being like, hey, can we get permission for these things? I'm 15. Like, if the headmaster of Hogwarts was like, we would like permission to import these magical creatures for our Care of Magical Creatures class, they'd be like, sure, Dumbledore. It would take one letter instead of whatever, like, 20 that Hermione had to send.
I think Dumbledore is too busy being the savior of the wizarding world.
Well, what does he do on an average day?
I'm wondering that, yeah.
wakes up, showers, shaves. No, wait. Never mind.
Anti-shave.
Uses an
Yeah, they
anti-shave.
don't. Remember, they say wizards don't shave in
That's
this.
right.
Like, yeah,
Oh, that's
which I
true, too.
thought was interesting.
Did they learn that spell after the spell that they learned to remove the poop from their pants?
Yeah, they use a vanishing spell to banish the hair from their face. Like, what? That sounds uncomfortable. I'm not gonna lie.
If that's the case, why is there still bedpans in the hospital?
I would hope
What do
that they
want
learn.
to? What do they want to do if they want to like sculpt their beard or like?
You need some precise charm skills for that.
I guess
Strategic
so. Yeah.
vanishing.
There's probably some pretty ambitious charms, like changing colors, like moving, like different topiary shapes, and
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I understand why they use toilets now because vanishing the shit from your pants is not pleasant. But what about the sinks? Couldn't you just like vanish the like germs from your hands?
Yeah.
Like,
That would
I'm just saying.
I mean, even if you could vanish it,
prestidigitation, I guess.
even if you could vanish it, there's still that moment where you're standing there with everything just there before you vanish. You have to live in that moment. So, chapter 7.
In which they use soap and water.
They get some remoras. Eventually, the ministry's like, fine, and like sends them some remoras. And you know, they're beautiful fish. They're magic in some sense. Tori, you were saying there's fishes that actually are remoras. These are remoras with an A, and maybe it's like Kirin in Japanese, where it's like Kirin is the name for a giraffe, but it's also the name of a mythological creature that's like a unicorn.
I see.
Because when the first Japanese people saw giraffes, they were like, "Oh yeah, that's a kirin, clearly." And so that's cool.
Yeah, remora is the fish. with an E.
Ramora. Anyway, for their class, they're taking care of the remoras. Everyone likes them. They're cute and they're beautiful, and they take care of them, and they have remora babies. And Hermione's like, "Oh, usually they don't have babies like this. Maybe we're overfeeding them."
And actually, there's a point made that Hagrid even likes them, even though they're not dangerous. Just proves how likable they are.
Now, these fish are from India, which is why they need special permission to bring some in for the class.
They're a protected species from India.
Species from India.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening is that a Indian wizard comes in very, very angry at them, and is shouting at them about this stuff. I like two moments in this. For one thing, the wizard's talking to them or shouting at Hagrid in Bengali. And Hagrid has the opposite of that thing where an English tourist will speak very loudly and slowly to someone in another country, just thinking that maybe if they do that, they'll suddenly understand English. Hagrid has this moment where it says, Hagrid's face was screwed up in concentration, and the apparent belief that if only he listened intently enough, he would somehow magically begin to comprehend the other wizard's language.
I'm not gonna lie, I've had that moment.
Totally. It's very relatable and also really funny.
And the other thing I like in this situation is Parvati. There's this sequence where I can read it, I guess. What's he saying? Ron asked Hermione. I don't know. I don't speak Hindi, I suppose, or Urdu. Bengali, actually, said Parvati Patil. Load of insults, mostly. Shameless bandit, filthy son of a pig, thieving Rakshasa. I think he thinks Hagrid stole the remoras. What? Shrieked Hermione, looking nearly as angry as the Indian wizard. He never! We got them from the Ministry of Magic. I went through the proper channels. I filled out all the forms. I have letters. You tell him, Parvati. You tell him I have letters. Parvati backed away. She clearly wanted nothing to do with the situation, and Harry couldn't blame her. I just like that, where it's just because she understands some of this is not her job.
Yeah. This is a rough job.
It's overwhelming. Yeah, I respect her choice. She sets clear boundaries for herself.
Yeah.
She's like, this is too much for me. I need to take care of myself.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
There are those moments where I understand the languages is all going in. I don't care about the situation going on enough to participate.
She's not going to step in and try to be the interpreter in this situation. Right.
Yeah.
I appreciate that because I feel like it's a very real thing where it's well, you speak the language. It's your job now to be the professional interpreter.
And you just no, this isn't going to be my afternoon. No.
Yeah, and I mean, she has no idea what else she'd be getting herself into in stepping into the situation. I feel like there's always the escalating mode of if I agree to this, what else is going to happen? So I think she makes a very reasonable choice here.
And so they take him to Dumbledore, and I appreciate that Dumbledore actually knows Bengali.
At least he was speaking it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess this is what Dumbledore does all day. Dumbledore has to be the one talking, and they look over the papers and magic the papers in different languages and examine them. And apparently there's this whole situation where some remoras, wizards were trawling for remoras with a net, and
the Indian government would never give away any remoras under any circumstance.
But they were smuggled into Scotland and somehow ended up in the care of Ministry of Magic, and someone just sent them without proper, fact checking or whatever, who didn't know what the deal was with the remoras and the Indian government's attitude towards them. But then the visiting wizard here is actually delighted to find out that they bred in captivity, which is unheard of.
Right. Because they've never been able to breed any, period.
No, right. In captivity.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, they breed in the wild. Probably. Have we all played Pokemon games? I don't know. I was just suddenly thinking of when you leave Pokemon at the daycare for the eggs, and every single time the daycare people are like, well, this egg appeared. I don't know how it got here. And it's I think it's pretty clear how it got there. I left a Nidoran male and a Nidoran female. And this is a Nidoran egg.
And also, weren't you there at the time?
Anyway, that actually has nothing to do with this.
Speaking of things that have nothing to do with this, actually, no, I just wanted to go back for a second because I've just been thinking this whole time, ever since I read this, why don't they have magical translation spells?
There really should be some, right?
Right?
Yeah.
Well, a spell that convenient would prove the existence of God.
But they have spells that are way more convenient than that. Like, so many more convenient spells.
Well, they have spells that can translate written word, apparently, as shown in this chapter.
Exactly.
No, it's
So, it just surprised me this is the first time we've encountered language barriers. Like, in terms of the written text of Harry Potter, language barriers were never present before, despite people coming from other countries.
Because everyone in the world speaks English, as it should be.
But we...
Proper British
I
English.
mean,
Right.
I'm sorry, I didn't read all the books, and I probably didn't read them that closely, so I could be incorrect, but it seems like we're led to believe that everybody understood each other, and I don't know if that was because they were supposed to all speak English or not.
And the books,
I don't-
everybody spoke English.
Yeah, I don't recall language barriers ever being a thing.
It's never a thing.
Yeah.
I like that they addressed it, but I also think it's funny that they don't bring magic into it at all.
Well, we've got one last, what I thought was a really fun character moment before the end of this fanfic, where it seems like the only thing they've been doing, taking care of them, like feeding them, and feeding Professor Snape's goldfish tonic. And a goldfish tonic is a fairly standard potion thing, apparently. But like they go to Snape and they like ask him about it. And there's this great moment. I thought it was such a good exchange. I feel like you rarely see Snape as a potions person.
Yeah.
But this felt very true to like what Snape would be like as a potions person.
I love this as a character moment for Snape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, I followed the exact recipe with certain standard substitutions of locally available ingredients.
Like, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, whoa, Snape, hold up a sec. What does that mean?
This is great.
he's like, I'll just write it out for you. And he's like writing. He likes like 4 pages of notes.
Apparently, he
This is
substituted every ingredient for something else.
Right. Every single ingredient was something that he thought would work better in it.
It's like that parable of like, was that somebody's ship or something?
Yeah, it's the ship of Daedalus. No, the ship of.
I'll Google it.
It's like kind of the Snape
Thesis, no.
you want to see, though. Like,
Ship
how
of
is-
Thesis.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, of course.
The ship of Thesis, right? Where if you've replaced every single component of the ship over time,
Is it a new ship or is it the same ship?
right?
Yeah.
This is like the Snape you've wanted to see all along. Like a Snape actually doing his craft. But
Yeah.
he does it in such a, like, amazing way that he substitutes everything, and yet his potion still works.
Right.
And I love that.
And
I
it writes
love
out the
that.
recipe complete with footnotes on how to make each substitution component for each ingredient. And this is the qualification to be a teacher at Hogwarts. You need to be a super specialist in this area.
Right. They
Doesn't
don't care
qualify
about
you to be a good teacher.
No.
But makes you a specialist in this
a
area.
very college way of doing it.
Yeah, because Snape
Yeah, like you were
literally
saying.
picks on little boys, but he's great at what he does. He makes
Which is pick on little
incredible
boys.
potions.
I mean,
Yeah,
make
that
potions.
too.
Yeah.
All that.
Yeah, Dumbledore is like checking the work. He says, "But surely an infusion of frog spawn isn't magical enough to take the place of Kappa brine." "It is if it's made with Hogwarts lake water," said Snape shortly. "And mock pickle of Chunquay? A deduction of dillweed, dragon's blood, Ogden's old fire whiskey, and muggle curry powder," said Snape. "The instructions for brewing it are in the 4th footnote."
So like, it's a simple recipe, but it's a recipe that requires its own recipes.
"Severus, is there a single ingredient in this entire potion that you did not use a substitute for?" said Dumbledore, a note of amused exasperation in his voice. "When I make substitutions," said Snape haughtily, "they work.
They work.
They work." And long story short, everyone's very happy with that, and Snape and Hagrid are both put up for awards for
Oh, and this
stuff.
was great too. It's like Hagrid wins for herbology, and then Snape wins for care of magical creatures.
Oh yeah, he was also feeding Horcrux to these things, and so the herbology,
Oh, right.
the award for herbology was for finding an actual use for Horcrux.
Which is
Horcrux.
also so funny because apparently Horcrux are animals, not plants. And it's totally reversed because they think Snape should probably get the award for herbology and Hagrid should get the award for animal. What was the award for animal something?
Magical creatures.
Magical
prize, right?
creatures, yes. Which because Horcrux are not plants, and Hagrid has done nothing with plants,
Well,
but
Tori,
still is getting a
there's-
herbology award.
There's plants, animals, fungi, and horcrumps, okay?
Horcrux are animals, though. We've
Yeah.
established this.
They've said that.
They're magical creatures. So.
Alright, fine.
Yeah,
And
pay
slime
attention.
molds.
And I can't do anything to prove you anything because my phone will not turn on, so
Alright.
I guess you can win in every conversation.
No, it just says, I thought you said Horcrux were animals, not plants, said Harry. They should be giving Hagrid a magical creatures prize. Well, there's still some debate about that, said Hermione.
And it's Snape who's up for the Magical Creatures Prize. If his Remora tonic lives up to its promise, he has a fair chance of becoming the first Western wizard to receive the Order of Kwang Po. And I like that little thing where it's just like, well, yeah, there's stuff going on in Asia that, like, we don't know anything about.
I mean, there should be.
Yeah, I like when it mentions the international wizarding world in this fic. It's fun.
Yeah, there's a couple mentioned, like, hunting or gathering remorse are against, like, international wizarding conventions or something like that.
They actually bring in a wizard from somewhere other than a Western or a white nation, which is, I don't know if they did that.
Is that
much in the
unprecedented? It
books,
might be
or-
in the canon.
Yeah.
Which part?
Like, anyone who's not from Europe at all.
They very frequently mention the wider wizarding world.
They do.
But
yeah.
it seems like everybody they interact with outside of the UK is European. Like, and not even that many Americans, but regardless of that, they're all white people. Is my main point.
Basically, yeah.
Like, the most exotic they get are, like, Romanians. Just about.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to think back on it. Like, the books 1 through 4 are the ones I've read through over and over. 5, 6, and 7, I've only read once because I just didn't like them as well. But yeah, to my recollection, I don't. Yeah, pretty much all white people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we at least get some Estonian wizards if we're going to go, like, Eastern European? I like Estonia.
Yeah.
Can we, like, just go outside of England for a minute? Because, let's be honest, even when they bring in the other European wizards, they still act totally English.
Yeah.
Like, let's just, like, have some diversity. I don't know.
So we've been talking about Harry Potter for like an hour and a half now.
We've been talking
my
for a
God.
long time about a 12,000 word fanfic, which is really short as things go. But I figured that there would just be enough for us to all to rant about for Harry Potter. Like, we didn't need a long fanfic.
Yes.
No.
Apparently that was true.
Yeah.
You were correct.
So, is there anything we want to complain about this fanfic before we go to praise? Redneck wizards?
Yeah.
You could take that out.
Not necessary in the chapter.
Yeah,
the
you
whole thing.
just have the whole chapter 3 be like 3-paragraph one, and I would be perfectly happy.
Yeah, and like even the author admitted that they didn't know what they were talking about when they wrote this chapter. Talking about rednecks and the whole comedy thing. So it was just not well executed, not a good idea.
I mean, there's that thing where, like, authors are not necessarily writing these things for people to be reading them 17 years later and, you know, talking about things. It's just, like, throwing it out towards their audience, expecting it to be disposable entertainment.
Sure.
But it still could have been your own original writing, which is perfectly entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that was part of my complaint, but I feel like I've already registered it, and I feel like I've kind of registered all my complaints at this point.
I think my only other complaint, it kind of wraps into my compliment, is that I could have used a little bit more meat. This was a fun story. I could have used a little bit more content, more story, maybe.
I think the reason that Hairu enjoyed it so much and put it on the list was basically its ability to capture the original flavor humor. Like, and that is a
Yeah.
thing. It does read, the humor does read like Harry Potter humor.
Yeah.
And
It
the characters'
does.
voices are usually pretty good.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you're right, it's not like there's any plot that goes from chapter 1 to the end.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there's like the wrapping a little bow on it where it's like, oh, the Ministry of Magic decided to let him teach dangerous creatures again because they decided harmless and easily domesticated creatures were too dangerous. Cue laugh track. But that's a pretty thin connective tissue.
Yeah, I enjoyed the tone. I enjoyed the topic. I could have used more.
I think this one could like make a really fun web comic.
Oh, yeah.
Like just where it is kind of episodic and like, oh, what's Hagrid bringing in this week? And
I don't know how many people can actually write a webcomic and not have it become an ongoing story that is very serious and dramatic.
that's true.
At some point, yeah.
Like, what would the webcomic of Harmless and Easily Domesticated be doing like 600 strips in?
They'd have multiple dimension characters.
I figure probably we would be involved in some, like, the main character would now be
Some
Ron's
child.
older brother who's like studying dragons in South America or whatever.
Or some child would die.
At least
And,
one.
like, yeah.
It wouldn't
And that
actually
would
be about
a thing.
Hagrid anymore. It'd be about a minor character that appeared in the first chapter at one point, and then becoming the main character about chapter 4, chapter 5 in.
But at this point, they would have already passed their owls for magical creatures and be like entering the Ministry of Magic in some sort of capacity for like magical creature studies.
At the end of the first chapter, they would have met multi-dimensional magical creatures that have all vanished them into separate different dimensions that would have paralleled like different Earth timelines. Like one would be in like a steampunk universe, and it would just alternate chapters, you know?
And also a universe where they were the magical creatures being studied.
Yes,
Ooh,
maybe-
No, that would happen. That would happen by
they'd
like
also
the
be
seventh
aliens.
story.
Or maybe
Yeah.
because climate change is real, you know, the world is like flooded with water, and like then you have all these weird sea creatures
Like water worlds. Yeah.
within the wizard world.
Wizard World.
Wizard water worlds.
Exactly.
There you go. It's all the same park at Universal, too.
I take your point, though. I mean, the strength of it is being amusing and episodic. And so you
Yes.
could totally see that in another format besides text.
Yeah.
Nah, I don't have any rants about it though. It was fun.
Well, if I was going to praise anything in this, though, just to say that I think it was really funny. I'm kind of mad that my phone keeps shutting off because it's a piece of shit. Because I wanted to look up some hilarious quotes. But this fanfic was brilliant in the sense that it was really funny, and it was funny in the same way Harry Potter was funny. So I'm giving mad props to the author for making it hilarious. Like, Hagrid was on point, the characters are on point, and there were so many humorous moments that I wish I could read to you, but my phone is a piece of shit. All right, moving on.
Hagrid could have been a little bit less childish. But
Yes,
it
agreed.
makes me happy just to see Hagrid being used as a character, like, specifically about his Hagrid personality things and Hagrid
Yeah.
interests and, like, Hagrid, strengths, right?
I felt this was all
Totally.
pretty on brand for Hagrid, but
Yeah.
that might be a minus. Maybe they could make Hagrid a little bit more interesting character.
A little bit less on brand, right?
It's a fan fiction, right?
No, I know what you mean, right.
Yeah.
You could have done something with him that was not done, but it's only things that were done. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they treated him kind of like a baby, but he was still a good character, so...
Yeah. Emily, thanks for coming on with us.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks for having me. This is fun.
Well, if you're ever back down here, we can get you something dark and depressing and serious. Harry
Sounds
Potter
great.
style.
All right.
To balance this out.
We'll make you read that Crab and Goyle character study.
Sounds good. I'm down.
Harmful and difficult to domesticate.
Wild and reckless.
Yeah.
Footloose and fancy free.
That didn't sound quite as dark as I was hoping.
I think harmful and difficult to domesticate would be the shoujo manga series.
Featuring Crab and Goyle, and they'd
Yeah.
have to
Yeah,
two
the
romantic
shoujo
interests
ai.
choosing between them.
Yeah.
Or
right.
Sean and I.
It's decided. That's what we'll do. Someone write that. Someone write that 15 years ago. Anyway, next week I think we're going to be going way off the rails. That is the plan. And watching a fan parody fan dub of Evangelion, the famous Re-Death. You can find that online. We've got a link to it at bit.ly/RFR Redeath. We'll probably have to have another debate, just like we did with Xena, about is this fan fiction, but whatever, we're doing it anyway.
Amada, can I put this on my Kindle? Can I kind of read it like that?
Yeah, we'll get you a transcript.
Can I get an RTF?
As for this, this was episode 39 of Retro Fanfic Retrospective, Harmless and Easily Domesticated. You can find a link there at bit.ly/RFR Harmless. The intro song is The Weekly Fare off of the album Popey's Incredible Adventure by Komiku. The outro song is Run Against the Universe from the same album. You can find this album and other works by Komiku at loyaltyfreakmusic.com. You can find our website at retrofanficretrospective.podbean.com or bit.ly/retrofanfic. We are also on Twitter at retrofanficretrospective and on Facebook at retrofanfic, I believe. If you have questions, comments, or thoughts about the episode, send us an email at retrofanficretrospective@gmail.com or contact us through any of those other means or leave comments or reviews on the podcast listening service that you use or whatever, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
We're loose.
We're easy.
We're easy. Whatever.
We take a Dumbledore approach to bureaucracy.
Dumbledore is just checking his Facebook all day.
Would be.
I'm Amato.
I'm Tori.
I'm Dom.
I'm Emily.
We're just 4 Earth life forms trying to be nice to each other. Until next time, take care.
I want to be Dumbledore's friend on Facebook so I can see him posting dank memes all the time.
I know, right?
Okay, it's 11 p.m. Let's go on.
All right.
What?
Then,
What time is that?
11 p.m.
Dang.
I'm sorry.
It's not your
It's
fault.
Harry Potter. I can talk
Right.
forever about Harry Potter.